This is her knocked down. As you can see, her feet are up, she's on her back, her hair's flipping back, her nose is up, she's got... Now this Mai has kind of a pink, purplish kind of collar looking decoration. I didn't want an exact duplicate. I wanted to add some little design choices of my own for the character. Okay, and let's see what's left. I have pose, but that's just something I was using to, this was used to come up with the designs for several other, this is kind of a starting point frame. So yeah, she has most, if not all, of her moves are done. I think this is what I'm going to have to work with her. There's her normal step again. So her graphics are done. After all her graphics are in the game, after all Chun-Li's graphics and all of Terry Bogard's moves are in the game, then I'm going to see if there's any room left for extra characters. I'm hoping there will be, but I'm not really sure because these take up quite a bit of space. Just for, you know, anyone, I don't know if you caught it through the videos, the limitations that I'm dealing with here, but if I really want to save ROM space, then you want to do things in increments of 8 by 8. And so 8 by 8, 8 by 16, 8 by 24, 8 by 32. These characters are all mostly over 32 pixels tall. So regardless of how much that extra space is, they're going to be using the next bracket up in ROM space. So for future games, I'm going to be more careful about that and keep it at 32 pixels tall or less so that it's easier to plan out how much space in that fourth bank each of the graphics are going to take up. But once she's in the game, I think it's going to really make a big change. All the flipping and kicking and punching and flying and kind of stuff like that. Now, Terry also has all his moves drawn, and I just need to drop them in the game. So, but the first thing, of course, the next step is to add his jump and flip, and then set up the variables that control the motion for the other two selectable characters. So with Mai in the game and Chun-Li, their steps will likely be different. They're not going to move like, so far the fastest character is Terry here because he actually takes a 6 pixel wide jump every time he steps. Ryu's is 5, and you know, when I put the character in there and then I see how it looks, then I'll decide how much they're going to move between each. So, and I like the flip. Like I said though, it might need a little more tweaking so the jump isn't so chunky. It's kind of got a stair-steppy effect kind of going on. I'm not displeased with it, and this is the cheapest, easiest way to do this, but I might just go ahead and change it so that when right and left are pushed, it adds whatever balances out that kind of chunk to the movement there. So this is just kind of a quick update to the game. I'm not showing too much. I did want to show the PF heights adjustments and the way those work. I noticed in my last video when I was talking about the PF heights instruction set, the left side of the screen was actually cut off, so you couldn't really see it. So what I was showing was how when a playfield is loaded and using PF heights, the PF height statement here regulates each row in the playfield's width. And I discussed how that can really help. Like for instance here, where the width is 45, I don't know if that focus is probably freaking out, but the width here is 45 at the bottom, and then that means this first row is actually 45 pixels wide. And even though this doesn't have the kernel option to eliminate blank lines, by spacing out things properly, you can hide the blank lines, and you can also create, you know, low, they're low cost because you're only using 11 rows, but then each row is whatever width you want it to be. So up here is your PF heights section, your playfield. Now, of course, my little secret method that I'm using, which involves the backgrounds and the characters that, you know, anyone can use, I guess, you know, is 2 instances of everything going on the screen. Okay, so if you want to make games like mine, where you have 3 color sprites, possibly these types of 3 colored backgrounds like I'm creating here, you're just using draw screen twice at least. And then in between each draw screen, you're putting up a frame of sprite or a, you know, a section of playfield graphics, and wherever the one playfield's color is shown, it will be that color. Wherever the second playfield's color is shown, it will be that color. And wherever they are overlapping, you'll have that third color. Okay, and that's how the sprites are as well. When you put the sprite up on the screen, these are single color sprites. What you're seeing here, that's Ryu and everything, and I can show that actually. I thought about this before, so you can actually kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Okay, Ryu's there. I'm going to do the same thing I do to edit something in Stella. I'll hit the tilde key and open this up. Those at the top left, if you can see that, those are the single colors that are going on right now. So if I go up here and go 1 frame, that's the second instance of graphics. And you can, as you can see, they're both different single color sprites. As they overlap, where they overlap is a third color. And so, and if you notice, if you sit back and watch any good Nintendo game, I was just watching a playthrough of Castlevania 2 on YouTube, which I love watching playthroughs of video games. I'll just sit down and watch, you know, playthroughs of whatever games. My favorite game for Nintendo is Guardian Legend, and when I watch playthroughs of that, it's really exciting. Anyway, the majority of your Nintendo games are going to have 3 colored sprites. Now I've noticed that Master System games quite often have like what appears to be 8 or more color sprites. Of course, the Master System has a much better graphics chip than the Nintendo, even though the Nintendo had all the great companies. They had all the companies working for them, and they had their exclusivity clause that kept Sega from getting the Capcom, Konami, and all those great games. But they squeezed a few good ones through. There were some more rebellious companies. You know, like my favorite games are Black Cart Tengen games, and you know, the non-licensed Nintendo games, just because they were not afraid to do their own thing and challenge Nintendo's stranglehold in the mid '80s there on the video game market. So I love you know, Alien Syndrome, Afterburner, Shinobi, all those games that were Black Cart Tengen games, Tengen, however you pronounce it. I always pronounced it Tengen for whatever reason. And I like those games. They're really, I think most of them are really great games. Indiana Jones was one of them. So why did they do that? Why was Temple of Doom, you know, not licensed? You know, a lot of them were Sega games, and that might have something to do with it. But what my point is that if you want to do 3 colored sprites like this, no, you're not going to get the tile-based complexity of a Nintendo game, where you have those really great detailed tiles. And there are other programming languages for the Atari that might enable that, like what's one called? I think VW Basic is one that I've used, and you have more control over the tiles, what would be tiles on the background. No matter what though, you're not going to get the background playfield, whatever complexity of a Nintendo game where they have seemingly, you know, a dozen different tiles to build up a really cool looking screen, and then on top of that they have the common 3-colored sprites like in Castlevania game stuff, but you can do the 3-colored sprites, and you can, if carefully designed, you can come up with some pretty complex backgrounds. Also, you can do scrolling, you can do zooming. They have that built-in zoom function that's part of it. So, and of course we're looking at something that was designed in the mid-70s and then was brought out in 77 versus something that came out in like 85 in Japan and 86 in most of the rest of the world, the Famicom and the Nintendo Entertainment System. So of course, 9 years later, they're going to have very advanced tile drawing and scrolling and precision animation and scrolling and stuff. But being able to get these higher color, better looking graphics, I think really makes a big difference for the 2600. Now, with this game being such a hard thing, this is a slog to try to get a game even like this to work. This is one thing, right? Getting, you know, an SNK Street Fighter fighting game, you know, kind of reminiscent of a Neo Geo Pocket Color game or something, popped out for the 2600. That's one thing, okay? But those who are really into those original Atari games, and I'm into a lot of them too, this is a way to totally revitalize and reinvigorate and redesign them. You could very easily, and if you don't do it, there's a chance I'm going to be doing it anyway, remaking games like Frogger, Donkey Kong. I've already got one of that I'm working on. Joust is one that I'm wanting to work on, where we have 3-colored sprites everywhere. This is easy stuff. It's easy. It's not going to be difficult at all to make the majority of those simpler earlier offerings from Atari and remake them. And of course you're going to probably want to use an 8K, 16K, maybe a 32K cartridge or something to do what you're doing. But the point is, you can have 3-colored sprites, and that's going to make the games look a lot better. And you're not sacrificing any gameplay or anything like that. It works fine. So, and I really enjoy doing this. This is a passion for me. I've done this for, you know, almost 10 years now. I've been working on and perfecting ways to create Atari games that are more like an 8-bit computer game than an Atari 2600 game. And the first thing that I needed to do to really be satisfied was get normal video game style sprites, because I was just like, the first thing that's got to go is those color row oriented, you know, pre-sprites that were part of all of those earlier 8-bit computers and of course the Atari, where, you know, it has this certain look where everything is a row of colors, and then after that row of colors is another row of colors, and there's no colors overlapping or anything like that. So being able to get this clear 3-color sprite personages here are, it's good. It really does make all the difference. It makes me think of a 7800 game, only of course a little less complex. The 7800 can show an awful lot of sprites on the screen all at once, and it can have 3-colored sprites right out of the box. So and tile-based backgrounds like the Nintendo. So progress has been made. I really appreciate everybody that's watching my videos. I've got over 100 views on my last video, which is uncharacteristically high traffic for my channels. So I'm just kind of throwing this out there to show what progress has been done over the past, you know, day and a half to 2 days. And the next video should have lots more jumping, maybe some attacks thrown in there. Maybe even I'll go ahead and hurry up and get the other 2 characters jumping and scuttling around on the screen. So, stay tuned.